Hello, welcome to the Holistic Healer Podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things holistic. I am your host, Cheryl Lee. Today, I have back on for a second time Skye Conway, otherwise known as Roar Skye. She is a wellness coach, author, and has cured 30 years of chronic illness through raw foods. We sit down today to discuss her journey into juicing after contracting the shingles virus, how she handled symptoms, emotional issues, her go-to juices, sleep, and so much more. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Holistic Healer Podcast. I'm your host, Cheryl Lee. And today I have back for the second time Skye Conway, otherwise known as Roar Skye on her Instagram. And for those of you who don't know, she is a health and wellness coach, an author, and you've healed yourself of over 30 different ailments of the body?
I think I've actually counted over 50, but I was sick for over
30
32
years, 30
Yeah.
years of chronic illness. Yeah. Wow. And you've just completed this fast that we're going to get into today. I think, are you still fasting right now? Juice fasting?
Yes and no. So without getting into it, well, I started when I had the shingles is what happened.
Yeah.
And I could only eat certain foods. Everything would set me off. So it was basically just watermelon and grapes. And then I would only be able to, even once the shingles, like I was getting to 2 months after, my diagnosis, I still couldn't do much besides put the bin out and maybe have a shower, only if I had those really simple foods. And that's when it led into the juices. So I never thought about juicing because I'm missing the top part of my digestive system, like my stomach, duodenum, top of intestine. So it dumps into the intestines anything that's extremely sweet. I get a blood sugar spike, and then I get heart palpitations, diarrhea, all these symptoms.
Right.
So I've just got to, I didn't really want to go to the juices, but I'd worked out that I was able to do more on lighter foods. So I thought I'll give the juices a go. And by day 4, which was New Year's Day, I'm literally like singing in the rain. I think I posted a photo. I'm like, I'm up.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. So let's back up. So first of all, shingles, how did you experience that? Because you were feeling amazing last time we talked. How did that come about? Was it a feeling in the body? What were your symptoms, first of all, to let you know that you definitely, something was not right?
Sure. So I worked out. So I got well 2.5 years ago, and I got better and better and better. And then in 2023, by midway through, so maybe August, I started to notice I wasn't continually getting better. Like that, some days I'd need a crash out day, like where I just rested, had a bit of hair loss. And I started to think, okay, I'm being pretty strict on myself. I'd been having only fresh food. So no nuts, no seeds, no dried spices, just, if it comes fresh from the ground,
Right.
I would eat it. So I started to trying adding in like salts and spice and nuts and seeds, herbs, Dr. Moore's herbs, to think that maybe I needed a push or I needed something was missing. And I still wasn't doing very well. So and when I say not doing very well, I mean, I'm still working, and these are things which are all new to me since getting well. Still working, still running, still doing Pilates every day. So I'm a fit person, but I'm just aware that I'm not doing as well. And then it got to a stage where I just went out to hang my clothes. I was quite tired. And as soon as the sunlight hit me, if you've had shingles, I had the bit where the rash was, it was here, rash. I had like a crop top on. It hit the rash, and I swear it was like something like, it's like pins burning into the skin.
Oh my gosh.
And you can't open your eyes properly. And then I'm like, looked at it and I'm like, because I've had it before. And so I went to a doctor, got diagnosed, and it displayed as the rash wasn't too bad, but it gets into every nerve in the whole body, like even organs you just feel, and you can't even put a sheet on you. It's
so
just painful. A horrible experience. But I always find, because I've had shingles 5 years ago as well, and shingles displays very normal to me. When I say normal, shingles is horrible. It's always after the shingles that it's I get the chronic fatigue. I can't get up. I get histamine intolerances. I can't stomach food. My digestive system must have the shingles still in it. It just won't digest. It just swells, and then food literally goes through me like you ate it.
Right.
And that's what I was worried about. like when I had the shingles. It's not the shingles, it's after the
The
shingles.
after the shingles, right. So once you realized, okay, I have shingles, you got diagnosed, was it in that moment that you thought, okay, I'm going to start juicing? Did
No,
that become clear to you right away?
no. So I guess at the start I was so sick at the start. So the first week I needed
Yeah.
relief because I was so unwell. I would just eat when I could, and I noticed that if I tried to have a salad, my body was just not going to have a go of it. I literally, though I couldn't get up the first week after that, if I'd had even a salad, I couldn't do anything. Like I literally, my
Wow.
dad would have to come and do everything for me. If I had
Wow.
the lighter foods, and during this time and even before this, I was extremely dehydrated all the time. And I was so dehydrated. The watermelon worked, but I found, I don't know what it was, but I was having massive cravings. So I'd always go back and try something. And it was quite upsetting too. I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to just eat because you're just by yourself. Like I live by myself. It's going on like a month and I'm still not able to eat. I just noticed the lighter the food, if it was a mono meal, I could do a couple of things. Like as I said,
Okay.
the bin out, maybe a shower, and I could talk to people. Because when I had
Right.
shingles in the past, it led into what they call FND, which displayed for me like a stroke, where couldn't I could
Oh,
the
wow.
words would come, but I couldn't talk or I couldn't
Wow.
move, and I ended up with full time carers again. Very similarly, my dad this time was doing so much for me. Like I couldn't get to the shops; he'd have to bring over, or I'd have to have Uber Eats bring a watermelon.
Yeah.
I couldn't do. Mum would come over, help me clean. So it was very going in that direction of before. Though I was very aware that I was not eating those foods which I was eating before, because even when I went to the
Right.
salad and the nuts, I couldn't do, like I literally couldn't move. So it
Wow.
kind of culminated in because I didn't even have a juicer because it wasn't something that sat well with me. But I did notice on the days that I have some juice, and I was getting candida as well. So when you have juice and watermelon, you eat it together, it literally wasn't digesting, just sitting there, and then your throat would get itchy, your stomach would hurt. So all of these things, and I'm like, what? How do I navigate this? And then I just started having green juices. So there's no real calories in a green juices. Like
Right.
it's
Right. Right.
cucumber, celery, parsley, and coriander, but they would go down and just calm the system. So I wouldn't wake up with
Hmm.
there's like itchy throat, big swollen stomach. So at the start, I just started hand juicing. I didn't even have a juicer, so I blended in the Vitamix, put it through a nut milk bag,
Wow.
just get these big juices. And coconut water has been like a lifesaver for me as well
Yeah.
because I
Like
was so dehydrated. And from there, I'd have like one sweet juice in the afternoon. And as I said, by day 4, I'm up. Like it was New Year's Day, and I'm like, I'm so blessed. Like how good I felt.
wow.
Like it was like
Wow.
when I get that sick, it's like you have so many symptoms, and every day, it's just like 5 years ago, every day is a new symptom. Like then you get
Mm.
the depression, your brain doesn't function. It's like having
Yes.
ADHD. It's rashes, pots came back. I'd go for a walk and I could barely stay upright. Like it's so
Yes. That must have been really terrifying for you. Like just I mean, in a sense, just because it must have brought back a lot of past
yeah.
feelings in terms of being not well.
Yeah, so I also believe that there's a pattern that follows me throughout my life, and I think we all have these patterns. But
Mm.
whenever I've gotten well in the past, because I've been chronically sick, but sometimes I've done better. And I think
Right.
what happens is, especially towards these last, say, let's say 7 years, when I have had 2 times I've got better, once I dissociated completely. And so I'm
Yeah.
not really knowing who I am. So when you do that, you're getting well from like a survival mode. So Skye,
Right.
my identity, isn't present. So Skye being sick her whole life is not part of who I am. It's basic
Got you.
functioning. Though then that one year in 2018, at the end, as I got well, you
Mm.
come back together, right? And with that
Right.
comes trauma. So, and I get that you dissociate to survive, but then as that
Sure.
comes back, then I got the shingles, okay? And I feel like, and then the memories came back and I got sicker and sicker. And I was very aware that this time I got well from even worse situation. But as I
Mm.
was healing and I was becoming, as I've gone through the last 2.5 years, I was becoming more and more Skye again. And with
Right.
that is like, of course, baby Skye, teen Skye, mostly sick Skye. And
Scott.
I
Yeah.
feel that plays like this massive role in how we live, like how we react to disease even. Like
Yeah.
it was extremely hard, but I knew that to be well, I have to be whole Skye. I can't be dissociated
Yeah.
Skye, so it's
Yes.
part of it. But I have to say the difference that even just those days when I ate watermelon or grapes, like to be
Mm.
up, like was just such a blessing because I know how bad it can get. Like,
Yeah. You actually have a reference point,
yeah, like so
right?
when I like on New Year's Day and I'm like, I'm up, is some people probably saw the post and they're like, oh, that's great because they might know a bit of my story. But for me, it was like I relived it
Yeah.
all. So shingles is horrible. You're right. It's like reliving that trauma. And I'm in a bed by myself in a dark room. I
Yes.
can't do anything besides. You can't even really concentrate on a screen, like follow the story, because your brain just
No. Shuts down, literally shuts
yeah.
down. Wow. So how far once you started drinking the juice and seeing that okay, if I'm feeling a little I'm functioning, I'm feeling better, drinking the juice, did you like was that in and around then where you're when you thought okay, I'm going to go all in for this. I'm going to just do liquids only?
So with at the end of the first day of doing the liquid, so when I get FND, it's like I can't stand up. I start to tip over to the point where you just in the end can't get up. I noticed I was standing up more in the shower. And I was like,
Mm,
and I felt like the jump was massive just the first day. And then the next
yes.
day was massive. But I'm somebody who I just know when you go through, and people should be aware, when you go through like something like this, is as much as juicing may have been the answer, you just don't know where your mind will take you. Maybe you've got some
Yes.
challenges to overcome. And so I take it very easy on myself, as in like
Mhm.
I didn't know whether I could continue. I've done 21 days on grapes, and I knew by day 21 I couldn't continue.
Yes, for
So
sure.
I just wanted to take it easy. But by day 4, I got up, I went for a walk. I think I did some journaling. I think it was by day 9, I started posting daily, like what I did
Mhm.
every day,
Yeah.
because I realized it was an extended fast. And then I was in, right? Because I think if you ever undertake this, the first 3 to 4 days, probably the most difficult because you're constantly hungry. You want to go
Yes.
back to old patterns. But
Yeah.
how good I felt is just kept me going.
It kept you going the whole time. So did you experience, aside from having shingles and dealing with all of that, did you also experience in the early part of doing the juices like any other detoxification, like emptying, like chronic diarrhea
Yeah.
or like massive those hunger pangs that we can sometimes get? Did you have that going on top of what you were experiencing with shingles?
So I was already in a pattern of eating basically mono meals, but I was
Right.
craving, interestingly, what the thing that I would leave the mono meal for was to eat Brussels sprouts. I
Oh,
needed something to like crunch that was green.
yeah.
Maybe my body needed something in it, but and I think it's because when you're so sick, you lack pleasure. You're not doing anything but just laying
Yes.
there. And if that is joy, and my stomach would just not do so well on that, or I'd go have to have a salad. I'd be like, most of the time it was just like veggie dips and it just wouldn't
Yeah.
work. That I struggled with. But unlike when I had the shingles and did the mono meals, I didn't want to go back because I felt so like I was always feeling bad. This was like, as soon as I was having the juice, I was kind of pulled along by feeling so good. I did
Right,
have a
right.
lot of the like it's like chronic diarrhea. You kind of get at the start, a lot of
Yes.
water flushes through
Yeah.
while your body kind of adjusts, and then there's like a couple of weeks while you're on it where a lot of old waste comes out. Like it's just
Yeah.
you couldn't believe like how much waste, and even I was just having watermelon and grapes for months as well.
Oh,
But I didn't, because I felt so good, I didn't suffer a lot. Like I think I
yeah.
really struggled to be in a bed and just eat watermelon because I still wasn't getting very far. But this,
Yeah.
I was like out in the sun, I was like talking to people again. So it
Yeah.
was like it's easier to do when your life is full. Like
Yes.
it was coming together
Yes.
again.
Of course. Now you incorporated some of your own nut milks, right, during
Yeah.
this process. And was that really helpful in terms of like kind of getting you through like maybe some harder times where you're feeling those like, oh, I just want to like pack it in now. Like what did the nut milk serve for you? What were the purposes of those? for you?
Sure. So I was very aware that the way I'd been running my diet for the last 2.5 years, I was not high in omega-3s. There were omega-3s in the avocado, but avocado was the
Right.
only overt fat source I was
Mm.
having. So swinging my body into functioning off omega-6 is not great and could have led to what
Yeah.
happened. I had been craving nuts but couldn't really digest them. And
Right.
so I realized, and I always think whoever, when you look online to people's healing and you're really drawn to someone's, usually it's because your body needs something they're doing. So I'd been looking
Yeah.
at Dr. Brooke Goldner's, protocol. I could not do what they do, the big veggie
Hmm.
smoothies and a lot of the seeds. But I realized that I was having a lot of greens, like craving a lot of greens, a little bit of sweet. And then I got to, I think, day 14 maybe, and I wasn't getting better. I was starting to
Right.
feel my body was suffering on the opposite
Mm.
scale. So it was now hurting me in some way what I was doing. And
Right.
I was like, what would I do? Because I wanted to run this juicing like that's what I would eat. I'd eat, some fruit, lots of greens, and then it moved across to, well, I'd sprinkle some nuts on a salad, is what I would do if I came off this, right? So
Right.
I then thought you can juice flaxseed. It's a little difficult and not very
Mm.
tasty, but hemp is quite easy. Many people who have kind of like difficult stomachs can find hemp is
Right.
okay. So I did the hemp milk, loved it, and felt so much better. So my hair loss completely went, my skin felt better, my nails were better, and you don't need a lot of it. And I started to then do walnut milks as well.
Mm.
And that was even more enriching to the body, a little bit harder on the stomach. But still, if you do the nut milks, they're not detrimental.
Right.
I mean, like, they're not like nuts where you can really kind of go backwards.
Right.
It'll flush through quite quickly if it doesn't work. And then I started to add a couple of Brazil nuts for selenium into
Mm.
some of the milks, and I found that incredible. And I found on the days I could go a couple of days on just fruit, then I would
Mm.
just, it's not even a matter of just giving it into cravings. It's a matter of I start to go downhill.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And yeah.
yeah,
I think that, when you're so in tune with your body, it's like you just intuitively know what to
yeah,
do. Like you just know with the okay, I need something else. It's almost like there's that where you need to feel a little bit more grounded. I know Dr. Morse talks a lot about that, where like the fruit can kind of really pick you up, but it's sometimes you just need to feel like you want to come back down and be more grounded. And I feel like those nut milks, like I know when I have nut milk, it just, that's what it feels like. It feels so nourishing and grounding to
it
me.
does. It feels very protective too. So,
Yeah.
I spoke about this recently. So what I noticed, because I was really high fruit for about a year and a half, and then there was this calling to do more greens and more nuts. And when I was high fruit, and I live in Australia, so we are right under a hole in the ozone layer, right? So if you come to Australia and go to a beach, you're more likely to burn. Like when I go to Bali, it's a different type of tan. But I noticed being high fruit, my skin started to freckle and mark. My skin started to go
Oh.
crepey. And now the end of summer, where I've had nut milks most days or every
Yeah.
second day, it's like I'm protected. Like it's like we take on the characteristics of the nut, which is, oily. They can
Oh, I
survive
love
all of
that.
winter. So and I feel, and my skin's gone, like it's just more protected. And if you think about fruit, it's quite fragile, right? You can't just leave it in the sun. It will just, and we
Yeah.
kind of take on that. So I have found it's something really great. And even if I can never digest the nuts, nut milk will be amazing. I
Yeah.
also found I tried veggie juices and I do have them occasionally, but the starchiness of them still kind of translate to be, sometimes I can be a bit uncomfortable afterwards, whereas the nut
Mm.
milks,
They're very
well,
soothing almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially the hemp is just,
Yeah. I love hemp seed milk too. It's so good.
yeah,
So at any point in this journey, did you notice any like release of parasites or anything during,
yes.
tell me
So,
about it.
so I noticed in the first like year, first off of being raw, is it's just was all normal. Then maybe like
Yeah.
a year and a half in, I started to notice a few parasite releases in the toilet. And then
Yeah.
when I added Dr. Morse's herbs in, this is last year, I started to notice a
Yeah.
lot more. Even when I was
Yeah.
off them, I started to notice more and more leading up to what occurred to me.
Yeah.
I can't remember it very much when I had the shingles. It's a bit of a blur. But yes, at the start of doing the juices, there
Really.
was lots, like daily, lots and lots.
Wow.
And I have found, because I'm not great with the herbs, Dr. Morse's herbs, but I do
Yep.
notice when I'm on just juices, I can do a little bit more because I'm more hydrated. I find them
Mm.
very drying, and I was
Yes.
already dry. So, that's why I have a lot of the coconut water. Yeah. So, yeah, they have had like,
Wow. Wow. And so what about the mucoid plaque?
okay, so I get, so I didn't do any of the like bentonite clay or the
Right.
silver
Right.
cleansers,
Right.
right? It wasn't my calling. My gut was so sensitive. I'm like, I don't want to push it anymore.
Mhm.
I do get that when you look in the toilet, a lot of what comes out, if you looks like bits of it, okay. But and I guess if I had put that clay in and pulled it all out at once, it
Yeah.
would look like mucoid plaque and like that
Plaque.
snake. But because I haven't didn't do that, I assume so. I haven't. Every time I see those mucoid plaque pictures, if
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
ask, they've usually done the some sort of big like cleanse of like
Yes. Yes.
clay that pulls it all out at once. But so it's kind of yes and no. That's what I like to say is yes and no.
Yeah.
Like
Yes and no.
yeah.
Yeah. Did you do any colonics or any enemas or anything?
Yeah, so I did a colonic, and the first one I did, I noticed I got an electrolyte imbalance. I think because I've been
Mm.
having so much of the fluids which had electrolytes, and then I was flooded with a water which was, I just went hypertonic and got cramps and stuff.
Wow.
And then recently, so I have eaten about 4 meals since coming off, and then I seem to go back to the juices, maybe 4 or 5. So the second one I had recently, so I'd had it probably 2 or 3 meals like off and on, and then I've been juicing I think by 6 days again by the time I had it.
Yeah.
A lot came out, like a lot, but it was definitely old. It wasn't. You can tell by looking at it.
You
So
can tell. Yeah, totally you can
yeah,
tell. Wow, it feels so I did 21 days last like a year and a half ago on juices. And at the end of the 21 days I went for a colonic, and I the colonic we have here, I don't know what it's like in Australia, but they actually have you laying down and then there's a tube in the wall so that you can actually view what's coming out of you.
yes,
Yeah, so you can see. So at the end, like almost like 5 minutes left in the colonic, I saw like the biggest parasite leave my body. It was crazy.
wow,
Yeah, and there was just this sense of like, oh my gosh, I felt so good to
yeah,
have released that because I didn't get rid of any mucoid plaque either. I did do the bentonite clay and the psyllium, and I still,
wow,
nothing. And then I was thinking, wow, am I that like backed up that because I was like you at 21 days, I had had enough. Like with you
yeah,
said with the grapes, I was just done. I was like, my goal was to do 30 and I was just done. I was like,
yeah.
I'm over this. I'm done. So yeah, there's just this sense of when you see those leaving your body, it's like, wow. I mean, it kind of gives you a sense of like, well, what else is up in
Well,
there? You know?
I, yeah, I always find when I have just before the releases of parasites, not in a colonic but at home, whenever is, I will find I will have like a really intense mood or fury or some emotion
Mm,
come through, and then I'll need to go to the bathroom, and it'll just be parasites or a parasite that will come out. And it's like, from what I understand, is they towards the end like release some sort of toxin to really kind of hold on.
like, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that is
Now,
crazy.
with the mucoid plaque, so I don't know if you know Raw Alchemy, John. He did 230 days on
I've
juice.
heard of him. I've heard of
Yeah,
him. Yes.
260. It was
And he
quite a
didn't lose any, right?
no mucoid plaque. He didn't do any of the bentonite clays, but he said old
Yeah.
waste came out. But he said something which stuck with me, and it's true, right? We're eating raw foods already, and a
Yeah.
lot of that is probably just coming out with waste, like already. That's what he
True.
believed. He goes, I've been eating high raw for 10 years. I assume that stuff is already out of me. It wasn't my goal. He
Yeah.
felt so good on the juices. His thought was, I'll do that all day and feel good
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah, well, I think oftentimes when people, especially now, like in the, when you're starting a juice fast or a juice feast, it's often the goal. It's like I just want to like see that mucoid plaque leave the body, and then there's this almost sense of like, oh, I didn't do it good, or I didn't accomplish it the way that I wanted to. So it's interesting just from hearing different interviews how much attachment there is around mucoid plaque.
So the reason I don't talk about detox much and I don't talk about pulling things out of the body much is because you will come from a place of lack, and
Yes.
we create patterns in our psyche, right? And so it's not just here, is you would be living in a place of lack, like you've got to get rid of something of yourself, whereas
Yes.
everything has its place. If you've got a parasite, it's not eating healthy cells, it's only eating into like
Right.
acidity, inflamed. It's helping you get rid of stuff essentially. Just think
Yeah.
of it as symbiosis. So I don't like to constantly got to get rid of this, got to get that out.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it also can stem into, like, I remember being younger and being like, having a few gut problems, and there was always it turned into almost like a type of eating disorder where you like got to get it out, got it. You feel so uncomfortable, got
Yeah.
to get it out. And I think that when I think of where I was back then versus now,
Mm,
I'm quite like, man, I've done things not many people could do for their bodies. Like, I'm an incredible
totally.
person for loving me enough.
Yeah.
Like, I can't then do all of this and then go, oh, but I'm not good enough. Like, I think that,
Yeah. Absolutely. That's such a healthy mindset to have whenever we're
yeah,
taking on anything, right?
yeah.
Did you kind of touched on it a little bit, but during this, and I know we talked about it in our last interview too, just with the any kind of like old emotional residue that came up for you during this time that was needed to kind of, I've noticed for myself that there'll almost be this like a lot of past stuff would come up for me where like I was cleansing that part of the emotional part of myself.
Mm.
And so just much like, I would have like detox symptoms, there was also the emotional side. Did you experience any of that at all?
Yes and no. My more emotional turmoil was when I sat with the shingles in the room. So that was
Mm,
like really difficult to do. You're like
yeah.
confused. Are you back there? Is this the same? Most of what I felt as I juiced was you feel like you're in God's space. You're so
Mm,
um, clear, you're so connected to the universe that you feel very, very safe. The
yes.
emotions that I did feel come through a lot of the times were pleasant ones. So I'd start laughing and be like, I
Oh,
haven't
good.
laughed like this since I was a teenager. I feel like a teenager, like
Oh,
more
wow.
positive. What happens for me is if I start to feel off in some way, I usually look to support that. So if
Mm,
I'm not doing so well on, if some emotion sort of comes up with the fruit juice, I won't push it harder and do a water fast. I'll be like, how can I support me? Maybe some more greens, maybe a veggie juice. I try and support whatever's occurring. But to be honest, it was
yeah.
more positive. Like, as in, I do remember
Wow.
moments where I'm like, I didn't even remember you could feel like this. And I'm like,
Really? Oh, I love that. That's so amazing. Yeah,
yeah,
that's I mean, I think that part of it too really helps. I mean, it just keeps you going, right? When you're feeling
yeah,
so good, that
yes.
just keeps you going. It's when you're feeling so crappy, you're like, "Oh my gosh, like I can't do this anymore
So
because I feel so crappy."
yeah, but I use the feeling good as my guide because it creates my mindset, and my mindset is essentially what heals me. So when people like, I went raw and it was so hard and it was like this torture thing, I'm like,
Mm,
no, you've got to pull back a bit. I said each step, I remember first getting raw, and this happened again this time, is every day I felt better, clearer, stronger, and that built a better, clearer, stronger mind and created,
yes.
essentially, we want to live. We're not here to eat, we want to live.
Yeah,
And
right.
life would start resonating like that too. So I'm someone who navigates by how I feel. Like, when
Sure.
I have what's called detox, and I've had it throughout my journey, is they're very short and sharp. So if my
Mm,
body, it won't be like 2 weeks or something like that. It'll literally be
right,
like
right.
temperature, and then that'll flush through. It's not like a virus where you ride a pattern. Like, a virus is
Yeah.
very specific. It's like it'll come, or I'll just have a sneezing attack, or maybe a parasite will come out. They're very like quick.
Very short-lived.
Yeah, when I did my grapes and I knew that something was wrong because I changed over to organic, I had neurological symptoms like a twitching
Mm,
eye. I couldn't use my thoughts. None of it
wow.
resonated with detox. And that's when I was like, what do I need? I was like, why don't I try organic? I know this isn't great. Within 2 hours, all of those like toxicity
Wow.
symptoms went. So I think, I know everybody's different, but I believe I'm more connected to the universe and God and spirit and source,
Mm,
the more I feel good and look after myself. So I
yeah.
use that to navigate life, right?
Yeah, of
And
course. Now,
healing.
for sure. And I've heard you talk about too, like the journaling piece, that's something that you started doing. Have you, like, what was your, I mean, I think all in all, it sounds to me like this whole experience has been very transformative in more than just one way. So the journaling, how has that kind of manifested in a sense of like how you maybe show up differently now day to day than you would have prior to starting this journey of your, shingles and the juice fast?
Yeah. So for possibly most of my life, but especially the last year, is I kept saying to myself, I'm going to start journaling. Like I'm going to
Mm,
start. And then I'm always like, when the new year was coming, I thought, start fresh in the new year. This is before I got shingles, and like
right.
commit, like it's your thing, right? And as it was
Yeah.
coming, I was like sick. I'm like, didn't even know whether to get the shops to get it because I couldn't order online. I wanted to start on New Year's Day. It was like
Right.
my gift to me. And I started it and I journaled like the first couple of days, like talking about my present. But then I enjoyed talking about what I already have, manifesting, right? As in, like,
Right.
I would just be engrossed in it. And what I know from healing is if you spend a lot of time reminiscing on pain or suffering or sitting writing about it, you will manifest that. That's just the way
Yes.
the laws of the universe work. So
Yep.
I only get up now and talk about this whole entire life, which is coming to fruition. But because I put my healing out into the universe, I put this out into the universe, so much changed for
Yeah.
me during this like 46 days, or it's still going, right? Is just people would start contacting me the way, do you want to try doing this together? Do you want to collab on this? Have you thought of trying this?
Wow.
What else? Also, like, just when you get up in the morning, how I would see the world, like the juicing helps, but the manifesting, it's like it starts to shift the universe into, not, you don't get just gifted it straight away, but you can
No, of
tell the
course.
universe is changing and you're more open to that too because you
Yeah.
are projecting it. You're like, here's an opportunity, and the
Yeah.
juice supports that. If
Yeah.
I can recommend anything, if you're going to juice, just get up and manifest. Like, just say I have this and I've got this and all your passions, because it's like so much easier because there's not many blocks.
Yes, exactly. You're not being like blocked with anything like the digestive process, all of
Yeah.
these things, because it is something, right? And I feel like when you're journaling and you're literally, writing down all the things that are coming to mind, all of those fresh thoughts, oftentimes that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise if you were eating a big meal or
Yes.
just busy. Like, I think that when you're in a juicing state, it really allows that presence to be much greater. And so that you're able to think in the present moment instead of
Yes.
always being in the past or always like, of course, thinking into the future, like, oh, what is it that I want to manifest, but also appreciating the present moment as well.
Yeah. I also think the reason when I'm juicing, I feel like such a child is because when you're a child, you don't think about food very much. That addiction grows, and
It's
we are really
true, right?
sustaining our body. Like, you literally think about food so much because you feel so terrible all the time. It starts to regulate that. It becomes part of you.
Yes.
Extra energy to play,
Yeah.
like in your, and that I think is why I felt like a teenager and a child.
Yes. Wow. I love that. That is so
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I love that journaling piece because I love journaling too. And it's so powerful. It's such a powerful tool. And I didn't when I was juicing, but I can only imagine how that would
Yeah.
be just next level. I want to ask you with those coconuts, the water that you're getting, are those the big green coconuts or like what coconuts are they? And do you eat the meat inside of the coconut?
Sure. So I get the Thai coconuts, and essentially, when they were young Thai coconuts, so essentially
Yeah.
they would be green, but they've been chopped down, so you just get the
Right.
middle from the shops.
Yeah.
They're not organic. Some are organic,
Yeah.
or put in ice creams or something like that.
Yeah.
And I have saved a bit. My friend eats the meat, but a lot of them I've just had to throw away because
Yeah.
I was having so much. But usually, and I'm very forgiving with myself like that. Like, I'm very like, I'd love to like save all of this, make something with it. But in the
Yeah.
reality, is it going to be more stress trying to figure out where to save it? Because I've saved all my pulp to make crackers and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
you
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
only do so much, right? And I always
Yes.
think one day, it'd be great. But yeah, a lot of it I just won't be able to use. But my good friend, luckily, she likes the meat and I like the water. So usually when I meet up with her, I'm
Okay,
like,
then it's
here
a
you
perfect. That's
go,
a
here you go.
perfect
Or I'd leave them on her
relationship.
car. In the morning, I'd go for my walks, have my coconut, and just leave some on her car. So when she gets in the
Aw,
car, because she's high raw, so
I love
works for,
that. That's so
yeah.
amazing. What about, did you experience any like massive weight loss at all
No.
during this time? Really? Okay, wow.
So I think also it's because I am raw already. So my body's very familiar with how many calories it's going to get if it has this much watermelon,
Right.
right? I think
Hmm.
it's very in tune with that. I may have lost a couple kilos, not much. In fact, as soon as I started juicing, I went over to my mum and dad's, and mum and dad aren't the only people who say that. I walked in, they're like, your boobs are so big. And I'm like, I don't know,
Really?
yeah. And I'm like, I don't know
Wow.
what it is. And then my best friend can't stop saying it. When we were out swimming or whatever, she's like, oh my gosh. She's like, it's like,
Really?
I don't know. And so it's quite strange, but is it not? Because a lot of my health problems were hormonal and that all kind of kicked in at
Oh,
16. And where
yeah.
there's something extra is flushing through and it's just normal. Like it truly just feels like, well, when I was younger, and whether it's
Wow.
getting, it can be sustained with nutrition. I don't know. It's quite, what I did notice is as soon as I did this is my hair felt stronger, like it was getting the
Hmm.
nutrients. Yeah, my boobs were bigger. And just nails. But once I added the nut milks, I got more strength in like the hair and the nails.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I was
Yeah,
going to
so
say
no,
that.
not much weight loss at all.
Wow, that's amazing. And what about like now that you're eating now a little bit, right? You're eating some food?
Yes and no. So at the moment, I'm at the
Okay.
stage where I broke the fast with some food, with some fruit and some salad, and it just didn't feel right. So I went
Oh,
off
wow.
it,
Okay.
and then it was like 6 days, and then I would try some food, didn't work again. But this weekend, I'd been juicing again for about 7 days, and I tried some food, and I didn't have any histamine reactions. I was fine the next day, but then I ate the next day and wasn't great. So, but that's a win,
Interesting.
right? So I've got a
Mm,
feeling this will be a long journey from what happened last time I had shingles. If I'm working my way through that, I think
yeah.
it might be a year of mostly juice, a few
Mm.
meals if
Oh,
that
yeah, for
kind of
sure.
mentally.
Is that going to be your gauge basically of just like when you eat something, really being in tune with, okay, how's this feeling in my body? And
Yeah,
then using that as as kind of the reference point of whether you should continue to eat solid or not?
yeah, I can feel my body is still, let's just call the whole system hypersensitive.
Mm,
Juice is
yeah.
working best for it, but of course, juice mentally and physically isn't optimal. So it's nice just even mentally to know that I'm not restricted. I don't want to be like, pushing
Yeah.
through 360 days of juicing where I suffer in some way because I know I will go
Yeah.
backwards. So I like to
Mm,
keep it open. I did the 46 days and then I think it's been like another 20 days at least
yeah.
since
So
then. And I would have only
you're
had
just
about,
basically doing it like a day at a time. You're taking it one day at a
yeah,
time.
but
Mhm.
mostly it's
And
some
if you,
sweets
yeah.
still.
And if you feel the calling to eat something or try something, then
Hmm.
you will. Are you, when you go out and about, do you feel like does your hunger get sparked at all by smelling certain things and feeling like, oh, that smells good, I want to eat it, and then eating something, maybe making something and then it not sitting well at all, or not really?
So that hasn't happened in the sense that going out can sometimes feel very overwhelming and powerful.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've
Mm.
noticed it, but it comes and goes with the raw vegan diet anyway, because you're out and about with
Yes.
foods you can't eat. I do notice most of what I'm craving is like greens or salad or something fatty.
Yeah.
And I find I've like but then again, whether I eat that or fruit, it doesn't seem to, it's not that it doesn't sit well, it goes through. It's that all these
Yeah.
symptoms come back. So they're not just
Yeah.
digestive symptoms, which I already had. They're all these, like, I can't get out of bed. Basically, that's the problem. I can't get up.
Yeah.
And so on Saturday, I had like just a couple of like fruit veggies. So it was like cucumber and a little bit of capsicum dipped in like this, just a dip. And that's it, fine. But it was the next day when I tried to do it again, then I couldn't get up. So
Then you,
that's a
wow.
win
Okay.
to me, right? Is like I can
Yeah.
probably have something now and again and just gauge. And I think people need to remember as well that when I lost my stomach years ago, I did not eat they tried to get me to eat, but it didn't really work for like 3 months. And I'm very
Wow.
familiar. There is an it can feel uncomfortable refeeding at times, but it shouldn't be to the point where you can't get up. Like I do remember coming off that, and
Right.
my stomach is I could function. Like this
Mm.
is like unfunctionable. So, but the symptoms are very similar to 5 years ago, but they were a lot worse. So I'm just
Wow.
going with that. And maybe I'm just
Yeah.
into deep healing right now, and that's
Yeah.
what it
I
is.
mean, you're really in tune with your body, that's the most beautiful thing. Are you
Oh.
doing any type of like exercise at all right now? Like going out of your way to do your Pilates or any of that?
So I think it was like 10 days into the juicing, I was like, I can run again. But the running I've been doing had been very much like I'm just showing up. So I
Mm.
couldn't do very
Okay.
much. And I'd noticed it was like I was like all like my body is like jammed still in
Mm.
certain positions. It's not I couldn't run, couldn't improve each day. And then I added in Pilates, but it was basically like just showing up. So I'm not there
Right.
to build, I'm not there to push. I'm literally just doing the movement so I
Going
stay.
through the motions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got to a stage where I was starting to do Pilates, and the running would be off and on. It wasn't like usual where it's every day running Pilates, running Pilates.
Right.
It
Right.
was like just a run here, run there, walk here. Pilates was every now and then as well. And then I just noticed that when I was moving my body, instead of when your body's got too much adrenaline in it, because instead of or weak, let's call it weak,
Mm.
that instead of moving and you can feel your muscles pull, you feel everything moving from the bone, like you're really
Oh,
like that
right.
weakness. If you'd had diarrhea all night and you went to the gym,
Yes.
feel a weakness. I
Yes.
was feeling a weakness, and I was like, right. So I put it on hold. I ran this morning for the first time because I've been juicing again, had some food that didn't, the first day went well, the next day not so much. Ran this morning for the first time, and I hadn't run in like 8 days. I ran my normal time. And I
You did?
hadn't been able to
Wow.
do this. So things, and it doesn't mean I'm going back tomorrow to like push it
Yeah,
again.
right.
The little signs that like, because you get to the mindset that like in the past I've always had to stop, and then it's been years and years and years, and your mind thinks you're never going to be able to run again, never going to be able to
Yes.
go to
I
Pilates.
know.
So little, well, I think it's a big win. I was almost crying while I was running. I'm like, when Siri said the
Yeah.
time, I'm like, that's my time. I haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, that's actually a really big win, I'm sure, to feel like
Yeah.
that,
So,
from
and
where you've come.
especially at that time, you like flashes over all you've done to get to that point. Like you get up every day, you juice, you didn't give up when you were sick. And I think
Yes.
you have to think like that, because it's like what you're doing is so much, so what I'm doing is so much self love. Like you're like,
Yes.
you could just go and give in and be like, I'll just have toast and Vegemite or toast and peanut butter. But you're like,
Yeah, right. Yeah. But yeah, yeah, and then when they show up, it's just like, "Wow, look at that. That was an amazing accomplishment that just happened." Because again, it comes back to that reference point. It's like, "Look at where I was and look at where I am now," right? Which is amazing. Did you supplement at all during this time other than the Dr. Morse's herbs?
as well, where
Right,
everything
right.
reacted is. I say to people, I may need magnesium, but the delivery system to my body will become like an allergen unless I have it in the most natural form, which is fruit and veg.
Right.
So I have
Yes.
never supplemented. Besides, I've injected B12 a couple of times. But even before I did, I think that was out of a panic because I'm missing the part of my stomach which absorbs iron and B12. My iron's been fine. All my blood tests have been fine. So
Wow,
it's going raw.
amazing.
But I think I panic when I don't feel well, and I'll have a B12 injection because I can't absorb it by tablets because don't have the area, so I don't know
Right,
how
right.
it's working there. But besides that, I don't supplement because of that reason. It's like
Yeah.
that MCAS, that mast cell activation syndrome. It just
Mhm.
before I even get the magnesium, my body's just in like a whole
Yeah,
flurry
right.
from
Yes. Are
the
you still using Dr. Morse's herbs?
yeah, so on the days I eat, I can't eat and use it. For some reason it's just too
Yeah.
trying, but I could even go 2 weeks and then I might have it for a few days. So I'm just so
Yeah.
sensitive. That's all I can do. I do notice, once again, I feel best on like whole fruits
Yeah.
or juice, but I can feel sometimes when I'm having so much fluid that my kidneys need a little bit of a push. Um,
Yeah.
they're not big symptoms that I need to treat with it. Or I
No.
use the brain and nerve, and I find that can help me when I'm feeling like a bit lethargic and things like
Yes.
that. Like as in the body's doing a lot of work, but it's not the same as the like living foods feeling.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
when
for
you get that
sure.
like
They're really
vibe.
powerful. I had a reading done by Dr. Morse. He did my eyes, and I got all the herbs that, that he recommended, but they're so strong. I really, it almost felt like, yeah, they were so powerful, the herbs. I felt them almost instantly when I took them. And sometimes I would get really nauseous taking them, right after I take them, I would just get this wash of nausea all over me, which would
Yeah.
last sometimes for, a couple of hours. So it's like tread lightly with the herbs for me, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like that. They say I feel very stimulated by it. And I get it. They're supposed to
Oh
like
yeah.
scratch and draw from the cell, and I can
Yes.
feel all of that. But look, I get if you had, stage 4 cancer
Of course.
and
Yeah,
you've got to go
absolutely.
hard and you're going to feel horrible, right? You got
Yeah.
to legit, I get that. But when you're like, I want to push my kidneys a bit, or I want a bit of,
Yeah.
I'm not going to make myself unwell.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
I get the point of them for sure.
I know. I still have them sitting in my cupboard because they're still there. If I need them, I'll take them. But it's like, it's just, I know if I take them, I probably won't, it's going to be a little bit of I don't know, like maybe a cleansing, like a healing crisis that I go into right away. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're pretty powerful. Lastly, what about sleep during this time? Has your sleep improved
So
or not?
I actually, people like, you go on these juice journeys and you have the most enlightening dreams. I've had a lot of nightmares, like a lot
Really?
of,
Wow.
yeah. So just on that note, I will say, because I know you did ask me about detox, something did come back. So I was, before I got the shingles, when I was running, I was noticing I wasn't
Yeah.
really sweating a lot. Like, and that's part of why I got the Dr. Moss herbs. I was noticing I was just swelling. And
Right.
once I got on the juices, by day 3, it was like something unblocked. The smell that came out of me, because when you're on
Really?
raw foods,
Wow.
there's no smell. I never smell anything. Whether you go to the bathroom, whether you sweat, there's
Yeah.
no smell.
No odor.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, the smell that came out of me, it was like something unblocked. And I was noticing that when I was out in the sun, I was sweating again.
Yep.
So, yeah, something like that, that really improved. But as for sleep, I just had these like very vivid nightmares. But that
Wow.
it was just at the start, and that coincided with that unblocking. That's what reminded me of that.
Wow.
And I think there
Wow.
were 2 nights then where I just sweated all night. But then it's been not. I think we're a bit restless.
Restless.
Interestingly enough,
Yeah.
like a bit.
What I
Not.
found
I was
too.
expecting to be like, because when I was on only grapes, it was like just zoning out and coming back in, and then you're ready to go.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
more like a bit restless.
Yeah. No, I experienced that as well.
Oh
And
wow.
also too, I feel like because I love my sleep. I mean, I try to get like between 8 and 9 hours a night. And with the juicing, I didn't feel like I needed to sleep. So I was getting up like really, really early in the morning, like normally I get up early anyways, but like I might get up at like 4 a.m. and just feeling like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to sleep, but then not really getting those
Yeah.
hours in, like maybe like a 5 hour sleep or something, which usually just isn't enough sleep for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was that restlessness with me as well.
Yeah, I found the days where I might do like 3 or 4 days on just fruit juice, and if you add herbs into that, it's like it can tip me over into like, I guess like not true mania, but it's like you're so stimulated from like so much sugar and you've
Yes.
got so much energy, and then you've got herbs. And I remember thinking like I'm getting so much done, but then it tips over into something which
Yeah.
isn't so great, and that's when I need the greens or the veggies and the
The grounding stuff, the nut
yeah,
milks.
because I think there's that time where you like it like goes on. It's like your whole brain feels fuzzy, like it's just so much.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's so true. I know, I'm sure you've heard of it, Dr. Morse. We talked a lot about Dr. Morse today, but his story about being like on the orange juice for so long, but then feeling almost like out of his body in a sense and needing to, take the greens just to be able to come back to earth in a sense,
yes. So that is one of my favorite stories. I find that so
Yeah.
inspiring, and I find it so inspiring too because he ate the oranges on a like orchard, which is like off, a Baptist guy was growing them. It wasn't like, like today, even things that are grown organically are probably near roads and things. This was like out, and
Yeah.
can you imagine? Is like it tastes like honey, and I
Oh,
find that
yeah.
so inspiring. But what I realized doing this and having the nut milks and having the herbs even is because I'd been on pure raw foods for like 2.5 years. Is I kind of think that I was becoming in love or comfortable in more of God's space. So not
Mm.
connecting as much because you can feel so connected to the universe when you eat just fruit
Yes.
basically and then have a
Yeah.
natural
Yeah.
salad at night. So I've noticed with this, I'm engaging more, I'm able to concentrate better. And I don't think it's that it was broken as much as I was so content. I could literally it's like meditation. I could literally sit in the park all day and be content. Like when I'm
Yeah.
having the raw foods, like I don't need anything else. And I think I've learnt from this experience, like that kind of situation, not to
Yeah.
that degree where he's like, you get
Yes.
lost in all God's worlds and I'm not just on organic oranges, but I do get where you can become, but then there's part of you like your purpose is to serve here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. Well, oh my goodness. You have had, I mean, and you're still on it. It's not, I mean, I always say like it's never done, right? We're never done. We're
No,
always growing and evolving and like who knows what the next thing's going to be. But the journey that's continuing on for you has just been a beautiful experience out of something, not so good. We look at getting shingles, it's like really crappy to get it. But on the other hand, it's really taken you down this beautiful journey where you're having these amazing experiences, you're journaling now,
yeah.
so it's all happening for a reason.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I like to think
So
like every time
amazing.
I like try and eat and I'm like, I can't get up and mom or someone's like, oh, you poor thing. I'm like, no, but I have the juice. Like I like to stay like so grateful for like I'm like before in the past I had nothing. Like you've got to look at it
Yes.
like I have this. It's not you can't have this. It's like, but I can have this and that's enough. Like that's
That's enough.
plenty.
Oh, I love it. Well, you know what? You're so inspiring and you're so unbelievably motivating, inspiring. And I just love this story. And I know that you're going to help like so many people who are struggling or, whether it's something like shingles or just struggling on a juice cleanse, whatever it is. So thank you so much for coming back today and sharing this beautiful story with me and my audience.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I love it. I love all you share. So thank you.